Okay, so starting out, engineering at St. Peter's College and the University of Saskatchewan, one and the same. So, what we're going to be covering in this meeting is going to be I'm going to tell you who I am. We're going to be telling you why students choose this program, common employment opportunities, um, you can see a brief agenda on the screen here. We'll be talking about some first year hurdles to success. What are some tips? What does your first year look like? What can we do to make sure that it's successful for you? I'll be going into some details here about your second, third, and fourth years. And then we'll be giving you some of the, just the details on tuition, prerequisites, deadlines, other stuff. We'll also be talking about some co-ops and a couple of other things. Engineering has a lot to offer at USask and at St. Peter's College. So introducing me, my name is Matthew Washkowski, and I am part of the student services team at St. Peter's College, along with Crystal Shutko. We work with students to begin their USask degree, and as such, we do work with USask regularly to ensure that you are transitioning properly and that you are set up for success. I'm not an official representative of the College of Engineering. We just have really close ties. We work with a lot of people in there, so I know a lot about how the program works. Students going to St. Peter's College or the University of Saskatchewan are welcome to talk to Crystal or myself on more information on their next steps, to get more information on their next steps. So there's a lot of reasons here on why students choose to study engineering, both at St. Pete's and at USask. There's just a really brief list to the right here, as you can see. The re-engineered program is the first of its kind in Canada. If you haven't heard about that yet, it's really interesting what they're doing. If you just type re-engineered USask on Google, you should find something. So the first year of engineering has been completely overhauled. That's what re-engineered means. The first year is completely different. Not all the details have been released to the public yet, but they will be coming out within the coming months here. It is a highly sought after program, but it can be a challenging program as it's reprogramming you how you think, how you approach problems, but you will gain a lot of versatile skills for employment options. There's a lot of practical components of it, both at USask and at St. Pete's, and especially as you get to years 2, 3, and 4. There's 8 different majors you can choose. There's 2 certificates. You have 5 options is what they're called, and you have 4 to 20-month co-ops that you can do. That's an optional co-op. I recommend that you do it. We'll talk more on that a little bit later. So for engineers, math and science are the means to an end. They're practical solutions to problems that real people face. That's what engineering is. You are problem solving and trying to create a solution for problems that are out there in the world to make it better or more efficient. In terms of what the jobs you can get, there's a lot. Pretty overwhelming list here. This is just a list of common jobs. Something to note is that the university provides a lot of skills, being able to identify and solve problems, knowing how to manage budgets, the properties of materials and how that will influence one another, how to communicate effectively in the workplace and how to communicate your solutions properly, how to creatively implement solutions. These are all skills that you're going to get as you come out with an engineering degree with. There are tons of jobs. It's not as linear as some other ones. There will be plenty of opportunities for you. It's a very creative and wide-reaching discipline, so there's tons of opportunities. With the paid internship program, the paid co-op program as well, jobs will very much be available. You don't have to know which one you want to go into yet. I'll talk more about that a little bit later here. So, what to know in the first year? So, we're going to be talking about specifically the first year because that's what St. Peter's College offers. We successfully offer the first year of engineering. Our students do extremely well here because of some of the supports, small class sizes here. But not only that, you're going to be making a lot of big, big choices here within your first year, and you're going to get a lot of information. So, going on to what the quote unquote old program looked like. So, what I mean by the old program is the old first year. So, it was a heavy workload. It was a traditional credit system. If you know how university works, it worked like almost every other discipline within the University of Saskatchewan and St. Peter's. You took general engineering courses and you decide your major later. This is still the same for the re-engineered. You are taking general engineering courses still, and you will decide your major later. Again, let's put a pin in that. I'll come back to that in a second. Oops. You can choose to take some classes in the spring, summer, or later years if you want a lighter schedule in your first year, or if you just want to try and get ahead. And engineering, and this is true for both programs, it really changes the way you think. This is a big struggle among students, is because you're really learning how to tackle problems. It's not so much about like learning new math and learning new physics. That's involved, of course, but a big part of it is learning how you approach problems. Some students might find that frustrating, but you will get a lot better at it. And it does tend to be quite enjoyable for students after a while. There is the Saskatoon Engineering Student Society. I'll talk about that a little bit later. There's lots of different disciplines and design teams. Talk about that later. Something that a lot of people don't get, especially if you're in the attendance here, you're in high school right now, is that there's a big difference between, let's say, like an 80 in high school and an 80 in university. Something you want to know is, just because you pass all your classes, let's say you get like a 52 in all your classes, doesn't mean you've actually passed university. With engineering, you want to get a 60% average. You need to get a 55% average for sure. Otherwise, those could have some academic consequences. Going on to the re-engineered program here, there is again, it's a heavy workload, but what they've done is the classes now vary in length and intensity. So previously, let's say you had to take a physics class. In the traditional credit system, you're enrolled in that class for 3 months, and then you have 1 month to do an exam. What's happening now is it might be you're doing 2.5 weeks of just physics, for 8 hours a day, and then you're done. So it's really changing up how you learn the material and when you learn it and what you learn. And the reason they're doing that is because a lot of material sequence. So if you learn something in physics or in chemistry or some new math discipline, you will immediately be able to use that in the next class in other disciplines. So if you learn something in physics, you might use that in your next math class or your next engineering class or your next chemistry class or whatever. There is a consistent schedule and a common lunch hour. This was true at St. Peter's College for the old program as well. So our students always got a little bit of a consistent schedule there. So that way you can almost treat it like an 8-to-5 job. And typically the more structured something is, the better that first year students tend to succeed. There is no final exams per se. So what that means is when there's no final exams, that means there's no exams from the start of December to the end of December, the traditional final exam season. You will still, though, have some basic integrative tests that you need to do well in to move on to the next level. So there will still be tests, I guess, if that makes sense. It's still a common first year, no matter if you want to be a mechanical, an engineering, or a mechanical, a civil, a chemical, or a whatever type of engineer, you're still taking that common first year. You can ignore this need 58% at the end of year 1. You could ignore that. That was not supposed to be there. That is incorrect. So going on to the engineering majors here, you might have an idea about what you want to do yet, but typically what we find is that the most students, they have an idea of like 2 or 3 or 4, but they haven't narrowed it down yet. And that's fine. That's common. You're not expected to know. You will get a lot of information here. You have 8 different programs here to specialize in with your degree. There's a reason the first year is a common year. You will get a little bit of everything. You'll figure out what you like, what you enjoy, and what you want to specialize in. You'll be talking with experts in the field who tell you about employment opportunities and so on and so forth. There is an internship opportunity or a co-op opportunity. About a third of the students participate. I'll be talking about that really quickly here. Something to note is that there is 100% employment rate after completion of the internship, either with the company you did the internship with or another company because of that experience. So keep that in mind. So in the later years 2, 3, and 4. So how it works is at the end of your first year, you decide your top 3 majors. So you pick 3 of these, a first choice, a second choice, and a third choice. You will know at this point what you want to do. There will be people helping you find this out. And in the last 3 or 4 years, my understanding is that the top 2 have always been guaranteed. So what that means is when people put their first, second, and third choice in the last 3 years, every engineering student has gotten at least into their second choice, if not their first choice. These are not affected by the re-engineered overhaul. This is not, as far as I'm aware. Re-engineered is your first year to help build you towards that better success. Your classes do get smaller as you go through the years. They probably won't be as small as your class sizes at St. Peter's College, but they will get smaller. Typically, a first year on one of the big universities, your class sizes will typically hover in the 3, 4, 500s. At St. Peter's, it's around 15, 16. As you get into your later years of engineering, I would expect that would probably go into like the 20s and 30s. There is that option for a co-op in your third or fourth year. You can start this technically at the end of your second year, and then there's opportunities to just pursue your interests within each discipline. So you get some flexible room there to do what you want to do. Going on to some clubs here. There is the Saskatoon Engineering Student Society, really fun group. I really recommend that as you guys go into your second year here, you start looking into these discipline groups or these design teams. There's a lot of them. There are people at the University of Saskatchewan, students who are sending satellites up into space, who are working on these really interesting projects. It's a great opportunity to meet new friends, to become a better engineer, to really build your resume and pursue your passions. So I really recommend that as you enter your second year, you start looking into some of these discipline groups and to these design teams, and as well as the student society. So the co-op program, this is that internship I was talking about here. You have flexible term lengths. You can do 4, 8, 12, or 16-month work term options. You can start at a couple of different times throughout. It's a great way to gain experience. You develop a professional network, you become a better engineer, and you get 20 months of work experience. And like I said before, 100% of people who did this co-op program either got a job with the places they did their program with or somewhere else immediately upon graduation. Your average salary for all the engineers who did this was $4,155. You do the math on that over 20 months. If you choose to do a 20-month work term, that's over $83,000. That pays for your tuition for the 4 years. That pays for your rent for the 4 years. That pays for your food and supplies and other stuff. If you do that 20-month co-op program, you are basically guaranteed employment at the end of it, and you have paid entirely for your educational experience. So that is a great, great opportunity. You can get up to 20 months work experience. So you do a 16-month and a 4-month, or vice versa, with 2 different companies. But if you want to just do 4 or 8 or 12, you can do that as well. You can register in a course while working. There are some restrictions that do apply. Every year, there's around 120 students who go on this work placement. And it is at multiple locations across Canada, though the majority are in Saskatchewan, with some in Alberta as well. So the required senior level programs here. So you need chemistry, you need physics, and you need pre-calc. I really recommend you get Calculus 30 as well. It will be very beneficial. You don't technically need it, but it would just be a very beneficial thing to have. Something to note is you need a minimum grade of 70% in each of these courses. So make sure you study hard in high school for these courses as well. So going on to the admission requirements, of course, you need to be graduated from high school. You need to have a certain admission average. Talking about that next. You have to have those subjects. We just talked about those. And you have to have English language proficiency. If you were born in Canada, you probably have this. Everyone who's in this attendance probably has this. If not, give me a call and I'll happily sort you out and give you the details you need to know. I want to make sure I have enough time for everything. So again, I've talked about these admission requirements. You need a 70% in each of these courses. There is no early admissions for engineering. Instead, there's a roll-in regular admissions where the minimum average should be 75%. You can apply for that up until May 1st. So when I talk about you need a 75% average, so they don't use everything in calculating your average. Sorry to your gym teacher, but gym doesn't count. So they use a 5-subject formula here. This is how the University of Saskatchewan calculates your grades. This is how St. Peter's College calculates your grades as well. They will pick 5 classes. One has to be a grade 12 math. So pre-calc 30, foundations 30, or calculus 30, with the best mark. 1 of your grade 12 Englishes, best mark, and then 3 between the classes that you have there. So you can be 2 natural sciences, up to 2 social sciences, and you can have up to 1 fine or performing art there. So I hope that makes sense. Don't worry too much about which courses count. Admissions at St. Peter's and at USask, they will do that work for you. So don't worry about that. Just get your transcript sent in. If you meet the requirement of that 70% in each of the courses, you probably meet the requirement of the 75% average. Going on to tuition here. This is an estimated amount based on this year's tuition rates and last year's tuition rates. Just so you're aware, this fluctuates greatly. So don't get scared at the price tag. I mean, especially knowing you can make $83,000 as a student to get a job after. This is assuming you are a full-time student. You are taking a maximum number of classes in the fall and the winter. You don't have to do that. You can split them up. You could take fewer. You can split them up into spring and summer. That is fine. At St. Peter's College, our tuition is essentially identical to what you see there. It's a couple percent cheaper. So go buy yourself a burger at Boston Pizza and you're equal. Our student fees are approximately a third of the cost. That's just because you're not paying for like a bus pass and a newspaper and stuff, which makes sense. So you're paying a lot less in student fees at St. Peter's. Our students do typically graduate with a little bit less debt when they leave to the main campus in year 1 or year 2. And that's just because you're paying a little bit less and you get to double your scholarship pools. So I'm going to talk about that right upcoming here. So typically, why do our students choose St. Peter's College? Well, we have an average class size of 16 people. This will be a little bit smaller for engineering students. So that's something to look forward to. You get that more one-on-one time with your professor. Our students do typically leave here with less debt, and that's because they get all those wonderful USask scholarships. They're very generous there. And they also get our scholarships as well. So on average, our students who applied for scholarships get $1,800 on top of whatever other scholarships that they're getting. So of course you're going to get less debt. If you're getting more scholarships, the tuition's the same and you're paying less student fees. It's a really friendly environment. You have a person working with you every step of the way. There's not a robot. What we find when we look at our internal data is that compared to the province and compared to the nation, we have a really low dropout rate. So our students typically do quite well because they get a lot of support. And you can spend the first year here in engineering. For some other programs, you can spend more than 1 year, but for engineering, you're at year 1, and then you go to the main campus and really start to specialize. We'll help you with that transition. This is just one of our engineers from last year. He was from Alberta. His name was James. Some of you might know him. I recognize some names here in the chat. So I'll let you read that, but James is just one of our engineers. This is what all of our students say. They like our small class sizes. They like the face-to-face instruction, and they like the interaction that they'll get with their professors. So moving on here. Again, I'm trying to make sure you guys get out of here by 12:45. If you want more information, we have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have a Twitter, and we also have a YouTube channel that isn't up there yet. Recommend you check those out. Follow at least one of them, so make sure you get all the details. If you want to email us, you can email us at the bottom there. You can phone us, or you can go to our website and get some more information. I'll come back to this in 1 second, so it's available for you. We are hosting an in-person open house on November 21st. That's a Saturday at 1 p.m. COVID-19 guidelines will be followed, so registration is required. Registration is very much first come, first serve. Because COVID-19 protocols are in place, we have a certain number of people we're allowed to fit into that room at any given time. So if you want to go to this open house, you should register for it right away. Just go on our website. There's a little button that says open house and put in your details, and we'll make sure we have your spot for you. You have a month, a little bit over a month, a little bit less than a month to register for it, but I recommend you just do it now to make sure your spot is secured. Spots are filling up. So if you want to contact us, feel free to do so on one of those social medias or through that information below. I thank you guys for your interest in St. Peter's College. If you have any questions, again, just reach out to us. We'd be happy to help out. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.